Imagine a world where airplanes are just beginning to cross the skies, where the radio is the hottest technology, and where silent movies are all the rage. Now, from that world in 1923, jump ahead a whole century to today in 2023. Ever wonder what people from that distant past predicted our present would look like? Some of their visions were eerily accurate, while others, well, let's just say they had quite the imagination. Buckle up, because in this video, we're about to dive into the predictions of our ancestors from a century ago. Would they imagine smartphones, robots, or flying cars? Or did they predict something even wilder? Let's find out. 10. A world of beauty and health. First off, seers from the past imagined a world full of gorgeous people, so much so that beauty contests would become a thing of the past. Why? Because there would be so many beautiful people around that picking a winner would be nearly impossible. And it doesn't end with adults. Those beauty predictions extended to babies too. They thought there'd be so many adorable babies that choosing the cutest one in a contest would be a Herculean task. Who knew the 1920s had such high hopes for our beauty standards? Moving on from beauty to something more crucial, health. There were writers in 1923 who envisioned a disease-free world by 2023. Think about it, cancer, tuberculosis, and polio would have become a thing of the past. With all these advancements in health, some even boldly proclaimed fewer doctors would be needed. Can you imagine a world where doctors are like rare gemstones? 9. Advances in technology. Imagine wrapping your internal organs with cozy covers, just like you would with a teapot. One writer from 1923 believed we'd all be wearing kidney cozies by now. Although it sounds hilarious, the idea shows how people back then were dreaming of ways to protect and prolong human health. But as far as we know, kidneys are staying warm on their own. No cozies needed. Now, this one's a head-turner. Aviation pioneer Glenn Curtiss had quite the vision for the future of flight. He believed that by now, gasoline would be ancient history and radios would be propelling our aircraft. While the skies aren't buzzing with radio-powered planes, the idea of seeking alternative fuel sources isn't too far off. And speaking of flying, how about a trip from Chicago to Hamburg via the North Pole? 100 years ago, people dreamed of a polar airline. They envisioned a flight from Chicago to Hamburg in just 18 hours. While it's interesting to think about a polar route, our modern planes have outdone that prediction, making the journey even shorter at 13 hours. But hey, who wouldn't want to add a picture of flying over the North Pole to their Instagram stories? 8. Wireless communication. Let's move on to the great predictions made by Archibald Lowe. Archibald Lowe wasn't just any British scientist. This man was behind the creation of the first drone and even an early version of the television. He was certain that by 2023, our lives would be dominated by wireless communications. It seems like he got that part right. But hold on to your seats, because Lowe had an even wilder prediction. He believed in the emergence of telepathy. He felt that within 100 years, we might be on the brink of telepathic communication. Think about silently communicating a simple message like, "Hey, pass the salt." Wouldn't that be fun? Lowe also prophesied about our present bond with mobile phones. He imagined portable devices accompanying us everywhere, in cars, homes, trains. Does that sound like your daily life? 7. Honeymoons will be happier. Let's move on to a vision for 2023 that was born through the words of Margaret Sanger, who was a prominent birth control advocate in the 1920s. She envisioned a future where birth control education would be as foundational as any other subject in schools. She believed birth control for the women of 2023 wouldn't just be a means of family planning, but a chance for freedom, intellectual growth, and an escape from the fear of unwanted pregnancies. Beyond this, Sanger painted a picture of societal change, homes filled with more happiness, couples sharing deeper mutual respect, and honeymoon bliss stretching on for years. And as the cherry on top, with several generations having access to birth control, she believed society would evolve to be more compassionate. How much of Sanger's vision has truly come to life? 6. Wars would be more catastrophic. But not everything was dreamt to be good in 2023. George Edward Linden Jr., a journalist, had dramatic ideas and a rather bleak view of us here in the future. He talked about wars more catastrophic than what we've seen in the past. Linden also quotes Archibald Lowe, who predicted wars in 2023. He claimed that warring nations would possess deadly weapons such as electric water jets that would destroy animal life, being able to spy on your enemies over long distances, wireless control of everything, and mental telepathy. How accurate were these, in all honesty? 5. People will master meteorology. Moving on to the Science and Invention magazine from 1923, which came up with some wild ideas. They thought about using massive fans to push clouds around and make it rain. Imagine having a picnic and calling in a cloud because it's too sunny. How cool would that be? The dream of controlling the weather came from the historical challenges faced by humanity due to unpredictable weather patterns such as the Dust Bowl. And there's more. The people at the University of Calgary in 1923 believed we'd be absolute legends at predicting the weather by now, and looking at our weather apps and forecasts, they weren't too far off. 4. Surprising skyline predictions. When you picture the future, do you see cities scraping the skies with towering skyscrapers everywhere? Architect Cass Gilbert, the genius behind the majestic Woolworth building in Manhattan, had a different take in 1923. Instead of cities endlessly racing upwards, Gilbert believed the future might just take a shorter stance. He envisioned cities with buildings not always touching the clouds, but more spread out and with rooftop gardens. Perhaps swapping out towering skyscrapers for terraces filled with greenery is a win-win. 3. Predictions about the women of 2023. Aldous Huxley was known for his sharp wit and observations on society. Chrome Yellow was his debut novel, and it satirized the social issues of his time, such as women's suffrage rights. Huxley made a wild prediction. He thought that by now, women would be wearing trousers, cutting their hair short, and blackening their teeth. Now looking around today, some of this feels oddly accurate, except for the teeth blackening part. But it's clear Huxley was just having a bit of fun, poking at the cultural shifts of his time. Yet that's not all. Alice Foote McDougall was a coffee company owner in New York. She wasn't just about brewing coffee, she had some thoughts brewing about the future too. She noticed that from 1880 to 1923, the number of business women had risen from 14.7% to 21%. Meanwhile, business men saw a decrease of around 5 to 10%. Isn't that shocking? Using this trend, Alice made a bold prediction. By the current year, 2023, women would handle most of the world's business. While we might not see the exact future Alice painted, it's undeniable that women have taken on major roles in the business world since the 1920s, with much ground still to be gained. 2. Saying goodbye to hard work. Imagine a world where everyone only worked 4 hours a day. Think about all that free time. It's not a modern aspiration, but a glimpse into a dream from 1923. Let's meet Dr. Charles P. Steinmetz, an electrical engineer from a century ago. He had a vision that by now, in 2023, advancements in electrical power would have transformed our life. He predicted people working just a few hours a day. Now let's break this down. Steinmetz believed that many of the jobs we once considered labor-intensive would be made easier by electricity, like factory work, newspaper printing, or even typing away in offices. We might not all be working 4-hour days just yet, but hey, electricity and the advancement of technology did make those types of jobs less physically intensive. There's always hope for the next century. But Steinmetz wasn't just about working less. He believed our free time would lead us to productivity. That means chasing passions, diving into hobbies, and essentially enjoying life to the fullest, growing personally and learning. 1. Teleportation will be possible. One of the most fascinating predictions comes from a French artist and writer named Robida. He envisioned something that sounds like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie: human teleportation. Imagine getting into a device that scans your entire body, disintegrates it, and then, poof, recreates you in an entirely new location. No more long flights or traffic jams, just instant travel. Beam me up. Now, the big question. Do we have teleportation in 2023? Not exactly. Teleportation is nearly impossible, but scientists have made some advancements in the field of quantum teleportation. The people of 1923 had some high hopes and fascinating visions for us. While we might not have hit every mark, it's incredible to think of the optimism and imagination they held for the future.